Welcome back to the channel. My name is Walter, this is the GT350 Garage, and in this video I'm rebuilding the heater box on my 66 Shelby. Now this is not a concourse rebuild, but I'm going to walk you through the process of taking the heater box assembly apart, cleaning it, repainting any metal surfaces that might have some surface rust on them, getting it ready to go so that you can glue a new foam kit in and put it back together and restore the heater function in your early Mustang. So with that, let's get started. So, rookie YouTuber mistake here. I thought I was recording and showing you guys how I clean these boxes up, and apparently my camera was not recording. So the steps you've missed at this point are carefully removing the heater box clips and then separating the two halves of the heater box to remove the heater core. If you need to see these steps, you can reverse the assembly process, and that should get you ready to go. So these long gaskets here come out of this channel on both sides of the heater core, and then all of this powdery foam remnant, and you can see it just turns to powder. It's bad, okay? It's like sand when it's done. Comes off of the doors and the flat surfaces, and that's basically for noise control more than anything. So this is the heater core out of the car, and I will not be using this. It is the original soldered copper brass style, and in the cooling system videos I'll talk about why this one will not be used, and I'm going with an aluminum core. Now, I've kind of done a preliminary cleanup on the box, and I'm gonna hit it with a Scotch-Brite pad just to knock any loose dirt and dust and stuff off of it, and it should clean up really nice. I'll wipe it down before it goes back in. There's a couple little areas like the driver's or the passenger side door here has a little bit of corrosion at the bottom of the door, and I can see where this has been painted once before. I'm gonna scuff this, hit it with some self-etching primer and a little bit of black, satin black paint, just to kind of freshen it up and prevent it from getting any worse. This box, despite having some missing clips and one crack that I've found, is actually in pretty good shape, so I see no reason to replace it. Chances are good that, you know, unless somebody has manhandled the box in your car, you're probably in the same shape that I'm in. One last area that we need to disassemble, because there's a seal for it, is we take these nuts off of the blower motor, and we can pull this blower motor out, and we have a new seal that goes behind here as part of the heater box rebuild. And so this is just going to be a full, quick rebuild of the heater box assembly, and you know, it goes pretty quickly. You can honestly, if you've never done one of these before, and you take your time, you drain the cooling system really well, you take your time, you can do the entire job in about 3 hours to replace a heater core and rebuild the box. And that would be a perfectly normal rebuild time for one of these old heater boxes. You don't want to rush. If you do, you're going to crack the fiberglass box, and these things, they are available in reproduction now, but they're several $100s, so you want to try not to break it. I mean, let's be honest. Money doesn't grow on trees, and if there's no reason to replace something, then let's reuse what we have when it's a serviceable component. Now these two screws here on the back, I'm going to take those out here in a few minutes, and that will allow me to remove all of the metal components inside this half of the box and I'll hit those with a Scotch-Brite pad, and I will prime and paint those as well. But here's our blower motor, and it's quiet, it spins good, so we'll leave well enough alone there. The scroll for the blower motor actually stays riveted to the housing. Don't try and remove this part, okay? It's not designed to be removed. Don't remove it. This one's in pretty good shape. Doesn't seem to have any issues as far as corrosion or anything goofy like that going on, so I'm gonna leave well enough alone. Okay, quick cleanup with a Scotch-Brite pad, and then we'll hit this with a little bit of self-etching primer. Blow the dust off of it, it'll be fine. Looks like I missed a little bit of the foam right there. Okay. And I already shook this up, but I'll shake it a little bit more right before you go to use it. And we just want to do just enough to kind of stop the rust. The self-etching primer is going to adhere to the metal underneath, and it's going to help prevent the rust from continuing. So let that dry and move on to the next part. Okay, so these little tiny screws that hold in the internal doors and baffles, they're just 1/4 inch. And just loosen them up a little bit, and then you can just use the socket to spin them out. And make sure you set them aside somewhere where you won't lose them. And those 2 screws. And that lets you pull this out. Now, once you've got that out of there, you can see that we've got a whole bunch of extra junk just came out of the box. So what I generally do is just take a Scotch-Brite pad and use it to knock all the loose stuff in the box. Not so much sanding as this is just a quick way to knock everything loose. Go ahead and your sealing channel, it's really actually kind of important that you clean that channel out, especially down here at the bottom where moisture collects and works the dust into the channel. And right here where the control shaft goes through, make sure that that's good and cleaned out. So just gently tap everything out. And this box has got a crack here in this corner. I could go through here and Dremel it and clean it up and fiberglass it, but this particular corner is not super structural, and it's on the back side, so I'm gonna leave it alone and not mess with it, because sometimes it's better to leave it alone. You create more problems trying to fix something that doesn't need to be fixed. All right, so this half of the box is pretty well cleaned out. And wipe that one out. And then this half, we can actually pull this piece comes right out, and that makes cleanup a whole lot easier. And it's really the bottom of the box where everything collects that you need to just kind of clean it out. This is kind of important too. If you don't want your heater box to smell when you turn it on, you don't like those musty smells of old car, this cleaning's kind of important to keep that from happening. So, okay, and this curvature matches the curvature in the other half of the box, so I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna leave this all alone. All right, tap everything out of it, come back. Here's our trap door. Now we're gonna glue a new piece of foam to this. I think we're gonna take this one step further and go ahead and pull this. So we'll pull this door off the rod so that we can really clean it up. It's rustier than it looked. Once the screws are loose, again, just use the socket to spin them out. At that point, need to very carefully lift this up, go underneath here, and pop this little cap off. And this is just a little lock ring for the rod.
So the way the control shaft is bent to control the door, the screws actually clamp down on the two sides of the door around the shaft, and this causes it to kind of be compressed a little bit and makes it a really snug fit. You'll need to open the door up and get into the back of the door with a small pry tool and just pry the door gently off the control rod. It will come off, but you do need to be very gentle when you're prying so that you don't break the fiberglass of the actual heater box. Patience here will be rewarded, and it'll come apart. And then you just snake the control rod out of the housing after you've got the control door off of the rod.
So if the internal parts of your heater box are severely corroded, you may need to sandblast them or even replace them or replace the whole heater box if necessary. In this case, these were just lightly corroded with a little bit of surface rust. Nothing severe, and so a good scuff, get it down to basically bare metal, and then I'm applying a self-etching primer to all of these parts. Now, the self-etching primer is designed to adhere to the metal better than a normal primer. Basically, it bonds to the metal with a more molecular level bond than your typical primer. And at that point, it's going to be a rust inhibitor, and we shouldn't have corrosion coming back underneath our primer or our paint or our glue, even though this is a heater box and we're going to have some moisture as we draw in fresh air and depending on the time of year that it's being used. Basically, just make sure you get one good light coat that covers completely and let it dry. At least a half hour. An hour is probably better. Once it's dry, then you can come back and apply paint. So at this point, we're going to apply the paint. The primer's dried for about an hour, and I'm using a satin black. Satin black looks nice, and we don't want a gloss for this particular application. We don't want a flat necessarily from an appearance standpoint. Not that anybody's going to look inside the heater box, but I'm also going to paint the vent door on the heater box with this. So we want that kind of stock appearance, and the satin black is going to give me that. Go for one even coat. If you put it on a little dry and come back and touch it up and just fog it with a little more paint, that'll be sufficient. Try not to get runs, and once this paint dries for about an hour, you can actually come back and start applying your glue and your foam. I hope you found this video on heater box disassembly, cleaning, and preparation to be helpful and informative. And if you have any questions about any of the parts or the procedures that I either perform or describe in these videos, by all means, leave a question in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer as completely as I can to help you through the process yourself. If you like this video, maybe you learned something, or it helped encourage you to do this process yourself on your own project, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate any and all feedback. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the GT350 Garage YouTube channel and ring the bell to turn on notifications. That way you'll know when I post new videos. For more information about my 66 Shelby GT350 project and the restoration and performance modification plans, you can also catch me on Instagram and Facebook. The links are in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, and I hope you'll join me for my next video soon.